People always say to me, well, you know, how do you like go into your career and get promoted and all that? And I'm saying, be your true identity. That's how you do it. So let me give you an example. In real life, remember my thing is, if this is a good story, but if it doesn't work in real life, who cares? So this passage, can you take people who are basically just depressed losers all the time and see them transformed into major competitors, major transformers in the world? Is that possible? I think it is. So here's an example of how that works. So I was sent to work on a project in the Middle East, and in this particular occasion, I had the opportunity actually to interview the team that was going to come work with me. That wasn't always the case. Sometimes we were just put in places, there was a team there, or we didn't use a team. But on this occasion, I was allowed to interview potential people to work on this project. So in the project, it was a project in the Middle East, in a particular country in the Middle East, and the country was pretty racked with radicalism. My job was to interview and develop a strategy to stop the radicalism in the northern part of this country. And so I get to interview the team. So I look through the different applications for this particular project. So the first guy I interview, I'm looking at his application, his resume, and he's from an Ivy League university. That's pretty impressive. He has 2 master's degrees. That's pretty impressive. One in ancient languages and one in Islamic theology. That's impressive. He speaks several languages. That's great. So I'm anxious to meet. He's a young guy. And so he comes in, and he knows I give him the scenario of the problem. And my question is, tell us a creative way of how you're going to be a part of solving this problem. Here's what he says. Well, he says, I think I'm going to buy a van, okay, and I'm going to fill the van with lawn chairs. And I'm like, really? Yeah. You're going to buy a van and fill it with lawn chairs. This is your strategy? Yes. He goes, yeah, I've been praying about this, and this is my new idea. I'm going to buy a van. Okay, the country's in the desert, so you're going to buy a van and fill it with lawn chairs? Yeah. And he said, I'm going to drive around at night and go way out in the desert, and I'm going to stop wherever I think it's strategic and set up the lawn chairs in a circle and wait to see who comes. I know, that's what I said. I'll start talking to them about identity and transformation. And I'm like, we're going to lose with that strategy. This is not going to win. This guy thinks this is a good idea. So I'm like, okay, next person. The next person comes in. It's a woman, a young woman, 27. She's married. Her husband was also part of what was going to be the team, maybe. She comes in. She's from the South, down in the South, and she sits down, and I start to talk to her, and this is what she says to me. Does my eye freak you out? And I said, what? She goes, my eye, does it freak you out? Well, her eye was something, there was something wrong with her eye. It was, pointing this way or something. But I didn't know which eye was wrong, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I didn't know which eye to look at. And I'm like, what? My eye, does it freak you out? My eye freaks people out. Is it freaking you out? And I'm like, next? Who's next in line? I didn't even get to her strategy because she wanted to deal with the issue of her eye first. And okay, next. I'm like, the next woman comes in, she's 23. I'm looking at her resume, graduated #1 from the University of Tennessee in engineering. Whew, a normal person, here we go. I have a guy in a van with lawn chairs. I don't know who that lady is. And then here comes a normal person. And she comes in. And she sits down, and we start talking, and she has a British accent. And I say, oh, are you British? No. You're not British? No. But you have a British accent. I know. Is your mother British? No. I grew up in a trailer park in Tennessee. Was it a British trailer park in town? Why do you have a British accent? She said, I didn't like the Tennessee accent. So I trained myself to have a British accent. I'm like, next. Like, this is the cream of the crop. This is it. So I didn't get to their two strategies because we're still driving around in a van, the lawn chair strategy. So I'm consulting with other people, and one of the guys I work with says, was there ever anyone in the Bible that had a strategy that was just absolutely stupid? Ever in the Bible? Or when God tells a plan to a person, does the person ever go, that is the dumbest plan I've ever... Does that ever happen in Scripture? It's the whole Bible. Every time people hear the plan of God, they're like, what? That's always what they say. Do what? That's how you know it's God talking. This is your response. Do what? Because God says things that just seem so strange. I think, well, a van driving around the desert? Why not? Let's do it. So we take these three onto our team along with some others, and we go into the project with this team. And Lord, okay, we trust. We're going to follow. I trust these people can hear from you. I trust. So we go into the situation. So we're in the situation, and one day, we're about 3 months in. This guy's driving his van around in the desert with lawn chairs. I don't know what. Does my eye freak you out? I'm not sure exactly what she's doing. The British girl from the Tennessee trailer park is, because she was an expert in Arabic, because she was an expert in accents. She could do any accent because when she was a little kid in the trailer park, she didn't want to sound poor, so she trained herself as a very young elementary school girl how to have an accent that she reflected more of her heart, which was British. Why did she think of that? Because her identity was at work. And she became an expert in accents and in language acquisition. And I will have to tell you off the microphone what she actually does today. But this was her first job. And so she moves into an Arabic community alone, and she picks up the accent very quickly. She learns the Arabic very quickly, and she's completely absorbed into the Arab culture. She's vanishes into the Arab culture. She's vanished in there. At the same time she disappears in there, the only one that actually knows where she is, does my eye freak you out? Her. They actually know what the other one's doing. So they're somehow collaborating, and the guy's driving his van around in the desert. Then in a small abandoned hotel in the north of this country, someone, I'm not sure who exactly, stuck an Arabic Bible in the drawer of an abandoned hotel and left it there because they think God told them to do it. One day, in this hotel, a young Muslim fighter is walking through the abandoned hotel looking through drawers. And he finds this Arabic Bible. And he sits down and he reads through it, but he doesn't understand any of it. It's Arabic, but he doesn't know what the story is about. So he's reading it, he doesn't get it, he knows it's something about Jesus, something like that, but he doesn't really understand it. And so he goes to kind of a trusted friend and says, have you ever read the Injil, the Arabic word for the New Testament? Have you ever read the Injil? And the guy goes, I haven't, but my cousin, a girl, has met this woman who lives in this other city to the south of us, and something's wrong with her eye. I don't know who she is, but that's how we know her. She's the woman with something wrong with her eye. She talks about the Injil. Maybe we can make contact with her. How can we find her? Well, I don't know exactly where she is, but we have a girl that lives in our town that's, we think, American, but we can't tell because she speaks perfect Arabic with an Arabic accent, and she seems to know the lady with the funny eye. So I'll take you to meet her, and then we'll see what happens. And so this young guy, through this connection, he meets the girl from Tennessee, who takes him to the girl with the eye issue. And then the girl with the eye issue calls me. Jamie, yeah, our plan is working. What plan? People are starting to come to me and Evans, the other girl's name. We have a guy. Do you want to meet with him? Yes. So I go to meet with this young Muslim guy. And because we're very clandestine, believe it or not, I meet this guy in a hotel, a hotel where it's not unusual for a Westerner to be. This guy comes and meets with me. He's 23 years old, this young Arab guy. When I go to meet with him, I bring with me an Algerian Muslim who works with us. I bring the Algerian Muslim with me so that when this Muslim meets me, there's another Muslim with me. It helps him like, why is a Muslim with an American? Why is that? But the other Muslim will make him feel more comfortable. So we meet together, we're having this conversation, and the Algerian Muslim who's older, says to the young other Muslim, he says, we've heard that you found the Injil. Yes. He said, what is your question to us about the Injil? And he said, I want to understand Jesus. The Algerian Muslim says to him, well, we can explain Jesus to you, or you can hear him talk to you right now. Which do you prefer? Can you imagine saying that to a person? I can try and explain Jesus to you, or he can talk to you right now. Which do you want? And so the young Muslim says, Jesus will talk to me right now? Yes. Now, why would we not say that to someone? What would we be afraid of? That Jesus wouldn't show up. Wow, that's weird. Why would he not show up? Anyway, so the young Muslim's like, yeah, okay, and you're a Muslim and you believe that Jesus talks to you? Yes. And the American, you believe? Yes, we're brothers in Jesus. He's like, never heard this before. So we put our hands on him. The Algerian prays, God, my young friend here wants to meet Christ. Jesus, in your mercy and in your love for him, would you speak to him right now? And then we just go silent. And we just wait for Jesus to talk to him. And the young Muslim, he's just standing, and all of a sudden he does this. And he just starts staring straight up. He's going, oh my gosh. And the Algerian's just smiling so big, like, there's Jesus. There he is. When was Jesus there? He's always been there. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. It's always been there. And he's looking up, and the Algerian says to him, what do you see? And he goes, I see a light shining down on me in my darkness. Does that sound like the Bible? Yeah, he's quoting John 1. He doesn't know. And he's standing in the light, and the Algerian says to him, how does it make you feel? And he goes, this light is peace. This light is Jesus ever referred to as peace? Yes. And light? Yes. And he's standing there and he's going, this light is peace. I've never experienced this kind of peace before. And the Algerian says, this is Christ. Welcome. And then it just stops. It just ends right there. And the young Muslim looks at the Algerian and he goes, what do I do? And the Algerian says, we can't meet with you anymore. Go back to your town and ask God to meet you there. Okay, he leaves. He goes back to his town. He's in his town. He's telling one of his friends about this weird encounter he had. He goes, where can I go to learn about Jesus? And his friend said, I heard this weird rumor that there's a guy driving around in the desert at night with a van, and he sets up lawn chairs. I think we could find out where he's parking tonight. And so they find out, and so the guy parks his van in the desert, he sets up his chairs, and there's already other Muslims that have found the van in the desert with the lawn chairs. And so out of the desert, out of the night comes this young Muslim, and he comes and he sits down in the circle, and he begins for the very first time to dig into the gospel with these other Muslims who meet this guy who drives the van around in the desert. And he starts reading the gospels, and the group is encouraging him, and these are all Muslims who have come to faith in this northern part of this country. And he says to the other Muslims, ask him, what are you most afraid of in life? What are you most afraid of? And he says, I'm afraid to go to jail, I think. And they all go, oh. They're like, if you tell Jesus what you're afraid of, he'll take that fear away. So he'll take away your fear of going to jail. How? By magic? Oh no. Oh no. He'll take it away forever. So the young Muslim guy is communicating with the American guy that drives the van, and for a week, and then suddenly he vanishes for 30 days. Where do you think he is? He's in jail. So he gets arrested for some ridiculous offense, has nothing to do with religion. It's some altercation in the town. He gets arrested. He gets put in jail. He's sitting in the jail, and here's his question to God. Can you come inside of a jail cell? Can you come inside of a jail cell? And he looks up, and there's the light again shining on him in the jail cell. And he says, Isa, which is Jesus, Isa is here. God is with me. And he's so overjoyed he doesn't know what to do, that even in the jail cell, Jesus will meet him. And he has a cellmate, and he starts laughing, and he's very emotional. And his cellmate says, what are you doing? And he says, I'm talking to Jesus. And his cellmate says, how do you know Jesus? And he says, do you want to hear him talk to you right now? And the guy's like, yeah. And he leads him right in the same process that he was led in. And the other guy can see the light and feel the peace. And they start singing together. Does that sound like anything in the Bible? And they start singing together, and it becomes this hugely joyful time for these guys, as both of them. And then he tells them everything he knows about Jesus, which is very little. Only what he's read from the gospel. That he's telling them, and they're so joyful and they're so happy that the guards kick them out. It's like, get out. This is obviously not punishing you. Get out. So the van's out in the middle of the desert. After 30 days, suddenly this young guy shows up with his cellmate. He sits down. You'll never guess what happened. And the other Muslims already know. They're followers of Jesus. They're like, you went to jail, didn't you? Yes. And Jesus was in the cell, wasn't he? Yes. And they're like, we know. And they're all rejoicing. Jesus can go anywhere. And the young Muslim is so excited, so he goes back into his community, starts telling all of his friends about Christ. He reads the Gospels out with the van in the desert, and then he comes back and tells his friends about it. And he's doing this, and he's doing this, and then the secret police come and arrest him, which is a whole different level of going to jail. And the secret police come and arrest him, and they take him away because he's talking about Jesus, and they think he's a Christian. And so they take him, and for 5 days, they stake him out in the desert to dehydrate him, wrapped in plastic. Then they bring him in at night and hang him up by his hands and cut him with razor blades. Here's his question, the young Muslim. Jesus, can you talk to me now? Can you talk to me in this? And they're cutting him, and they're saying to him, you cannot be a Christian. You cannot be a Christian. And he keeps saying to him, I'm not a Christian. The Christians are in a tribe over there. I'm a Muslim. What are you talking about? And then they keep cutting him, and they realize, this guy's not a Christian. Why are you talking about Jesus? You can't talk about Jesus. And he says, oh no, I know I have to talk about Jesus because he speaks to me. He's like, I don't know how to not talk about Jesus because Jesus talks to me. How can I not talk to someone that talks to me? And they said, can you hear him now? And he says, every time you cut me, I can hear him in this ear. Every time you cut me, he says to me, I'm inside your pain. I'm inside your pain. And every time you cut me, more of him comes out of me. And it's a kind of joy. 5 days of being dehydrated and cut with razor blades, and he's finding joy. And he says to Jesus in the torture, he says to Jesus, if I can hear you this close in this, what do I have to do to see you face to face? I want to see you face to face. And the Lord says to him, I'd have to take you home. And he said, do it. And he yells to the guards, kill me. Because to live in the torture is okay because I can hear Jesus, but if I die, I can be with him. You know what verse that is in the Bible? To live is Christ, to die is gain. That's what he's saying. He hasn't read anything except Matthew, and he's at this level of relationship with Jesus. Is the Bible true? I think it is. He's saying, cut me so that I can be done here and be with Jesus. And the guards are like, he's finding some kind of joy in this. And so they release him to punish him. They kick him out. He makes it back to his house. He goes through all this, treatment and recovery. And one night in the desert, he comes out of the dark to meet the van, and he sits in the chairs and he says, you will not believe what happened to me. And they're like, what? And he goes, Jesus is inside of our pain. He's not just in the hotel and in the jail cell. He's inside of our pain. And when we go into pain, he comes out more strongly. And all the Muslims are like, whoa, you know Jesus at that level? At that level, yes. And they revere this young guy. He's been a believer for only a year. And he's doing this. He recovers. He's got all these scars all over him. He keeps studying through the Gospels with the guy in the van who's this amazing leader. The guy in the van is the leader of one of the largest Muslim movements in the world because of the van strategy that was so stupid. And his two teammates are the girl with the British accent and the girl with the crazy eye. All of them we still work with today, all of them. The young guy, he's studying the Bible with the American, and he reads the passage that says, don't put your light under a bushel, hold it up for the whole household to see. And he says to the American, you know what, I don't think I'm courageous enough with my faith. The American has never been through anything that this Muslim guy's been through. He goes, I need to go home and tell my entire family about Christ. So he goes to his uncle, and he says to his uncle, I want to tell the whole family about Jesus and what Jesus is, the truth about Jesus. Will you gather our entire tribe together and let me stand up and talk about Jesus? 24 years old, he's doing this. And so his uncle's like, you're crazy, they'll kill you. He goes, good. But I need to tell, they need to know this. It's amazing. His uncle says, all right, calls the whole tribe. 400 people come together. This young kid stands up and he tells the story about, I found a Bible, I met this crazy girl with a crazy eye, and this girl that's British, but she's not, and she speaks Arabic, and I think she's an American, and I'm out in this van in the desert with these guys in a lawn chair, and I meet Jesus, and I get arrested, and Jesus is in the jail cell, and my partner sees him, and he believes in Jesus, and then I get arrested by Mahabharat, is the word for the secret police, and they dehydrate me and cut me with razor blades, and I hear Jesus deeper. He comes out of my body when they cut me. He comes out in all of his glory. And I said to Jesus, take me, let me be a martyr for you, which, for Muslims is like the highest level. Let me be a martyr for you, Jesus. But Jesus says, no, you stay and you tell your tribe. And so I'm here to tell you, Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way. And the whole tribe is just staring at him like, what in the world? And then it ends and he says, I'm just begging you, just call out to Jesus. He will meet you. You can hear him for yourself. When it's over, the next day he's walking along the road and 3 of his cousins come and they pick him up. They drag him into a van. They drive him up onto this hill. They hold him down on the ground and they shoot him. Just point blank. They shoot him to cripple him, to shame him. And then they just leave him on the roadside to bleed out. Somebody finds him, takes him to some awful doctor. The doctor looks at him and says, well, we can keep you alive, but you're never going to walk, and you're never going to have children because of where they shot him. to humiliate him. And so you're going to be paralyzed and you're never going to have kids, and that's the way that is. And then one of our girls finds out about him. We go pray for him. We take him to a different doctor. The different doctor looks at him and says, wow, this is weird, but the bullet kind of missed everything. It's weird. So you are going to walk and you can have kids again, but we're going to have to rehabilitate you. And so he survives. So he comes, the next time he's able, after months, he comes walking into the place where we're now meeting with a cane like this. And when he walks in the room, I'm telling you, you just want to bow down to him out of respect for how brave this guy is. He goes, you're never going to guess what happened. I gave my testimony in front of my tribe. They shot me. We're like, oh my gosh. He goes, I need to do it again. I got to go back and do it again because they obviously didn't understand what I meant. We're like, you're going to go back and do it again? Yes. And we're like, we don't think that's a good idea. Do you hear what we're saying to him? Don't do that. Protect yourself. This is unwise. We, the believers, are telling this young believer, don't go back and risk your life again because we're afraid. He goes, no, I have to go back and forgive the guys that shot me. We're like, you're taking this thing way too far. Like, you're taking this way. No, I have to go back. And so he goes to his uncle and says, can you bring the tribe back together again? I need to forgive them and tell them again what I meant. They misunderstood me. And his uncle's like, you're insane. Please, I'm asking. His uncle's like, all right. Whole tribe comes back together again. The guys that have shot him are right there. He stands up in front of them. How would you feel? You're looking at the three people that held you down and shot you so that you would bleed out on the side of the road. He's looking right in their eyes. He goes, I just want to say first that the ones of you that accidentally shot me, that's what he said, that accidentally shot me, you know who you are, like, I forgive you. You don't understand what I meant. I know I'm scaring you and you're acting out your fear on me. I'm just going to cancel that. I forgive you. Now, let me say again what I meant. And he goes through the whole thing again with the whole tribe. They listen to him and they're all like, they shot you and you're back here to forgive them in front of us? And they start to believe. The tribe starts to believe, oh my gosh, this 20, whatever he is now, 7-year-old is in here telling us, and all he's read is the gospel so far, and this is the level of courage that he acts in, and he tells them, and then the next day, he's walking down the road, the same 3 guys pick him up, because they didn't like what he did. They take him up on top of a cliff, they stab him multiple times, and throw him off the cliff down into the desert and drive away. And so we hear, they killed him. Except when he's down there at the bottom of this cliff in the middle of the night, there's a patrol of Arab soldiers from another country. I don't know why they were in this country, but they're in this country. They're commandos from another Arab country, and they're in this country doing maneuvers, and they find him. And they're moving around, and they come up upon his body, and they save his life. And they're talking to him and they're taking care of him and they're like, who did this to you? Who did this to you? And he says to them, well, I was trying to tell my tribe about Jesus and they didn't understand what I was saying and some of them got upset and stabbed me and threw me off a cliff. He goes, they shot me last time I did it. And these commandos are like, and they see the bullet wound where he was shot and they're like, how are you this brave? Like, you're the bravest or dumbest person we've ever met in our life. They said, what are you trying to tell him? And he leads the commandos to Christ by saying this, do you want to hear Jesus talk to you right now? In the condition that he's in their MASH unit, do you want to hear Jesus speak to you right now? He'll talk to you right now. And all of the commando group come to faith. The commando group decides, we're going to go find the guys that stabbed you. And so they do a night raid, and they find the 3 guys, and they bring the 3 guys into their country and prosecute them. That's just how God does what he wants to do when he wants to do it. This guy survives. He survives all of this. he comes finally back into the place where we're meeting, and he goes, "You're never going to believe what happened to me." Like this. Today, he is married. If you want to see a picture of him, I'll show you when we're done. He's married, he has kids, and he lives very deep in the Muslim part of the world where he lives, and he is an amazing witness for Jesus. Now, here's my question. How did that guy, who started out as an in-debt, disenfranchised, disengaged young guy, turn into that kind of mighty warrior? Because he met someone like you that understood identity and hearing from God. If you learn this, if we see what the Bible is trying to teach us, and you learn this in your own just walk with God, and you start thinking, what can we do in this situation? You say, God, help me think of this situation in a new way. Help me to think about, give me wisdom. The Bible says if you need wisdom, ask, but don't waver when you ask. Go by what you hear. And then God gives you an idea, and you share it in your community, and you share it with your team, and even if your team's like, that's kind of a dumb idea. But you go out and you start to actually do it, it starts to really make sense like that. Now we all think driving around in the desert in a van with lawn chairs was the most brilliant idea we've ever heard. Now we think that, but we didn't think it before. But I thank God for the guy, his name is Shannon, that came with that idea, because he revolutionized the way we do work in that part of the world with his idea. In this room, you are sitting here with ideas that are just barely forming in your mind about who you are and what you can do in the world, and you're dreaming about things and you're thinking about things, and you kind of play with them, and then you shut them down. You shut them down because they're stupid, or this doesn't make any sense, or I don't believe any of this stuff. And then you just go into the fear loop, we call it. You just live in the fear loop. You never get out of it. But what you could do is just walk out there with God and go, what is this that I'm thinking about? Why am I afraid of these things? Where does this come from? Help me understand what I believe about myself that is false. I give it to you. What do you say about me? Oh, you think I'm a mighty warrior in the kingdom of God? That's what you think? What does that look like? What vocation does that play out in? And go get them. And go into the world. Where? Anywhere. Anywhere that your identity and the Spirit of God drives you, go. Don't be afraid. Go. That comes from being alone with the Lord in prayer and meditation and reading the Word and being in community groups. That's what it comes from. I am happy to meet with any of you. Luke has my information. I'm happy to communicate with any of you about anything. No idea is a bad idea. What's a bad idea is to live in fear the rest of your life. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. I'm challenging you, I'm encouraging you. Go to God. Go to God and just ask Him to start talking to you, and start listening and writing down ideas that you have, things that come to your mind. Read the Bible. How does that apply to me today? What does it have to do with high school? What does it have to do with college? What does it have to do with my job? How does this stuff apply in my real life? And start to try and make sense of it with the Spirit of God. Write down ideas and start trying to live those things out. And I'm telling you, like Paul says in Philippians, you will shine like stars in the darkness, because most people never live like this. Never live like this.